I found a brand new build on NBA 2K23 that is going to be super fun to use and absolutely dominate. It is definitely more of a guard build, but it can be used in almost any single game mode, and it is also extremely well rounded. It can unlock every single dribble move in the entire game, gets contact dunks, gets all the shooting you could possibly ever imagine, and also has really solid defense. And on top of all of that, I didn't skimp on really any of the physicals either. But with that being said, NBA 2K23 builds are really complicated, and I don't want you guys to mess up. So make sure you watch this video from start to finish so you guys don't miss anything with this player. Also, this build is going to work for both next gen and current gen. The builders are pretty much identical. The badge counts might be a little bit different, but you're going to be able to get the exact same stats, and that's really all that matters. With all that being said, let's hop straight into it. Alright, what's good, YouTube? Today we are going to be making another build, and you can see right here I have unlocked Rebirth. If you've already made a build on NBA 2K23, get it to 90 overall, do the quest for Rebirth and unlock Rebirth. When you make your new player, you get an initial max overall of 90 and already 25 badge points unlocked. Gonna save you a lot of time, and you'll thank me later. But going into the builder right here, obviously your name is not going to matter, and mainly the only thing that really matters on this screen is going to be your position. For my build specifically, I'm going to make it a point guard. I think you can also make it at shooting guard. I'm not sure if you can at small forward, and you definitely can't at power forward or center. But just to make this a little simpler, we're gonna go with point guard. Point guards get like a super big range of heights, so point guards are actually really good. For your handedness, it does not matter if you go right or left. I personally like going right, but just go with whatever you usually go with. If you usually have a left-handed player, go with left hand. If you usually have a right-handed player, go with right hand. And jersey number does not matter. But listen, with this build, there was one main thing that I wanted to get and I wanted to do when I was making and when I was looking into a more of a guard build, and that was I wanted all the dribble moves in the game. And in order to get all the dribble moves in the game, not only do you have to be under 6'5", but you also need to have at least a 92 ball handle, which is very tough to get because when you get into the stats of 90s and above that, you lose a lot of attribute points. And so just taking you guys through my thought process for this build, the height I was going with this build, I wanted to make a 6'4" initially. Now I say initially because I'm going to get to in a second why a 6'4" doesn't work out. I was thinking about going to 6'4". Obviously, we're not really focusing on strength with this build. It's going to be a guard build, and I want to go a higher wingspan because going a higher wingspan, our defense is going to be better, our finishing is going to be better, and I'm still going to be able to shoot even with an 89 3-pointer. You can go all the way up to 7'1", but you're going to want to have an 89 3-pointer. I'll get to why later. But listen, the reason I'm not going with a 6'4" build, this is the 6'4" build I would probably run with the body settings, but when you bump this down to 6'3", and really I didn't want to go 6'3", I wanted to go 6'4", because 6'4" is kind of the minimum height I would go with to play twos on. You could still play twos with this 6'3", but I think you're really pushing it, you're really cutting it close being 6'3", and I think if you are 6'4" or higher, it's a little bit better. But for the purposes of this build, the build is just so much better at 6'3", and I don't think that extra inch in height is going to make too much of a difference considering how much better this build is at 6'3" as opposed to 6'4". So we ended up going with 6'3". Now the weight is obviously going to be minimum. Our wingspan, I was looking at 7 foot here, but if you go down to 6'11", you get that 89 3-pointer, which is one thing I was looking for, and I'll tell you why in a second. But if we hit continue, let me just go into the builder real quick. We're going through the attributes. This is very important. You do not want to mess up any of these attributes. Starting off with our driving dunk, I like to get an 84 at least, that way I can get contact dunks. But instead of going just to an 84, you guys can see when you bump this up from an 84 to like an 85, you get an posterizer on silver instead of bronze. And if you go up even higher to an 86, you get gold limitless takeoff. As well, because I am 6'3", I unlock small contact dunks, which is just another contact dunk package, so I can get even more contact dunks with this build. But listen, I'm going to come back to finishing. We will have more than 12 finishing badges, I promise, but I'm going to come back because I like to get the most important stats on my build first and come back with whatever overall I have left at the end and get the extra badges I need. So with that being said, all I'm doing in shooting for now is upgrading our 3-point, and to get that 89 3-pointer is really important because you get Agent 3 on gold. Agent 3 on gold is super important. It's probably the best shooting badge in the entire game. It's basically stop and pop from last year. Not only does it work on like fading shots, but it also works on any shot after you dribble. So it can be a standing shot even after you dribble, and the badge is still going to work. It's still going to pop up, and it's going to be super good. It's going to give you a huge boost to your shots. And with that 89 3-pointer, I'm very comfortable shooting no matter what. I don't feel you need to go much higher than that unless you're specifically only playing point guard and like pro am. But if you're just playing like park, 2s, 3s, maybe a little bit of wreck. 89 is absolutely plenty for this build. And now going into playmaking, like I mentioned, the main thing I wanted to do with this build was get every single dribble move. And to get every single dribble move, you have to be under 6'5", and you have to have a 92 ball handle. But you can see when you have a 92 ball handle, you're only getting silver handles for days, which I think is kind of crazy. Silver handles for days is kind of crazy. That's what I get on my center build. And so I know it takes a lot of attribute points, but you have to push this all the way up to a 94, which is a little bit crazy. 94 ball handle, that takes so many attribute points, but you have to do it for gold handles for days, because otherwise the build is just not going to be that good. Silver handles for days is just a little bit too low for a guard build for me. And so I knew I had to go 94 ball handle despite it taking so many attributes. Now moving my speed with ball up here. Speed with ball is also another thing that's going to take a lot of attributes. And I put mine up to an 89. Now this one can go all the way up to a 95, but I don't know how worth it is to go all the way up to a 95, depending on what game mode you're playing. Like if you're not trying to have any defense on this build, you can go all the way up to a 95, but you can see it takes two overalls on its own just to go from 89 to 95. So in my opinion, it's not really worth it because I'm not gonna have any defense if I put that to a 95, and I definitely want some defense on this build. 89 speed with ball is already plenty fast. You guys gotta just trust me on that one. I've used a build, my center has like a 75 and it's still really fast. So 89 should be absolutely plenty. And obviously going into defense right here, we're gonna need at least an 86 for silver clamps. That's going to be pretty decent in order to get stops on this build. Again, this build is not going to be a lockdown by any means, but being how overpowered this build is on offense with every dribble move, contact dunks, elite shooting, it's definitely going to have pretty solid defense to match with all of that. So defensive rebound, we're bringing up here until we get a 17th badge right there. And then we're bringing block up until we get an 18th badge. Now, I like this setup on defense, especially for a smaller guard. I'm not going to be a complete defensive liability. My defense isn't going to be elite by any means, but I'm definitely not going to be a liability on defense, which is really important for pretty much any guard build. Now, moving into our physicals, before we go back and adjust some other things, our physicals, this is where it gets a little tricky. Obviously, our stamina is going to need to be a 95, and our vertical is going to have to be a 75 in order to get contact dunks, because you need at least a 75 vertical in order to get all the contact dunks I want. But here's where it gets tricky. You can see if I move my acceleration up, I'm really pushing it close here. I'm a 98 overall right now. And for one, you are never going to be able to max these physicals. If you max these physicals, these speed and acceleration right here, your build is going to be so bad. And I'll tell you why, because these speed and acceleration stats, they don't affect when you're dribbling. And the main thing you need to worry about when you're playing on this build is dribbling. I would much rather have a higher speed with ball, higher speed and excel. These are really only affected when you're playing defense. And so in my opinion, they're not as important. And I'm actually dropping them down to 83 for both. Like I said, it's only when you're moving off ball. If you have the ball in your hands, it's going to go to your speed with ball stat and not your speed and excel stat. So these stats are really only for defense. And like I said, this build is not going to be a lockdown by any means. Definitely not going to be like slow either, but it's definitely not going to be like a super elite defender. It's just not possible in order to get all the dribble moves as well. But listen, now that we are a 98 overall, we can go back to finishing right here, and I'll show you guys a little trick. I'm going to be able to get a lot more badges right here very easily just by doing this. You can see I get an extra badge right there, and if I bring my close shot all the way up to a 67, I believe, there we go, 67, we get 17 finishing badges, which allows us to core a tier 3 badge as well as get another tier 3 badge as a non-core badge. 17 finishing badges is insane. Like 17 finishing badges is a lot, especially when we get to the other categories and I show you how many badges you actually get with this build. The next thing we're going to do is move our mid-range shot up 1 and we get an extra badge for it. Now we have 22. Now we have 22 shooting, and that's going to be enough to core a gold tier 3 as well as get 2 more on silver, or if you get a +1 badge point to that category, you can even get 1 on gold and 1 on silver. Moving into playmaking now, and remember, I've been a 98 this entire time. Just by upping these few stats, we get so many extra badges, and we can even get a 26 playmaking badge right now. 26 playmaking badges is absolutely crazy. But that doesn't end there. We can go ahead and up perimeter defense 1, and we get 19 defensive badges. 19 defensive badges is absolutely insane. So with this build, not only are you getting every single tier 3 badge you could possibly want, you're getting 84 badge points off rip, and 88 with the +4 that you get from just becoming a starter in my career or rebirthing the build. And finally, with these last couple of stats right here, you can really do anything you want. You can upgrade your mid-range, do whatever you want, but there's also some other things you can do. For one, if you want higher speed with ball, you can lower your speed in Excel and put an extra speed with ball right here, which I think may be worth it. You know what I'm saying? It may be worth it. I don't know if you get anything at 90 speed with ball, but that may be in contention for being worth it. Another thing you do is up your vertical. You know, your vertical is going to help you get more contact dunks, or you can just upgrade any of these stats. Now, I tried everything. You can't get an extra badge no matter what you do. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these. All on close shot. I think close shot is probably one of the better stats that I can put it on. And, you know, I can just put the rest on like defensive rebound and put the last one on free throw. I know you can't really get an extra badge. I know it sucks, but you're already having 88 badges with this build, which is super, super overpowered. And again, this build is going to be super, super all around. Like I already said, you know, 17 finishing, 22 shooting, 26 playmaking, 19 defensive, and you can put that +4 wherever you want. I would recommend putting a couple in defense and maybe a couple in playmaking. Your shooting is going to be elite. You're going to be able to get contact dunks. You're going to be able to get every single dribble move in the entire game and dribble super, super elite. And your defense is not going to be lackluster either. You have an 87 perimeter defense. You have an 83 speed, 83 Excel, which is decent. It's not the greatest, but it definitely is decent, and it makes this build work. And finally, your stamina is good, and your vertical is good enough to get all the contact dunks. With this build, you might get every single animation in the game. I'm not sure exactly, but you get a lot of different animations. You get every single dribble move. You get a bunch of different contact dunk animations. You get all the guard jump shots, I'm pretty sure. And so hitting continue, let's go ahead and go into the takeover for this build. You get shot creating, you get sharp shooting, you get playmaking, and lockdown. So, you know, if you wanted to be toxic with this build, you could put lockdown on it, because I feel like that's the weakest category on this build. Either that or finishing, but you don't get any finishing takeovers. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and put lockdown takeover on this build all around and make it even better. But for me, I think the best combination, honestly, is limitless range right here. Limitless range is a super, super good takeover, as well as pull-up precision. So you're not only going to be able to take off dribble shots, but also shots from super deep, and probably also shots off the dribble from super deep. But anyway, this build is absolutely glitchy. I think it's really, really broken. I think it's going to be a really, really broken guard build. We do get shades of Damian Lillard, which I think is pretty good. The build ends up coming out as a two-way inside-out creator. I don't know what kind of build name that is, but I kind of like it, so we'll go with it. Testing out the build right here, I'll show you guys the badges for this build. We're going to go ahead and test it out, and I'll show you guys the badges. So 17 finishing, that's a lot of badges, and we're going to need to use at least 10 of them. So I would recommend putting on Fearless Finisher. You're probably going to want to have some Giant Slayer on because you are 6'3" with this build. Acrobat is also probably going to be a badge you're going to want to run. And with this last one, you can put on like, I don't know, there's not really any good badges left. You can put like Aerial Wizard on one. And then with this, you can put Limitless Takeoff Gold to your core, and you can go ahead and put Posterizer on silver. And with this last badge, like I mentioned, like there's not really anything. We can go ahead and put Aerial Wizard on silver, but Limitless Takeoff Gold, Posterizer silver, you're gonna be able to get contact dunks with this build. Very, very solid build all around. Moving on to shooting badges right here. We're gonna start off, we're definitely gonna need some Green Machine here. We'll go ahead and put on Gold Green Machine. Definitely a very, very good badge, and a lot of the badges you're gonna want for this build are going to be in tier 3 because those are the most important ones. But after we go and put Green Machine on, I would recommend putting like Bronze and Catch and Shoot maybe, and then like Volume Shoot or Silver. I didn't mean to put Gold. And with this, we have 12 badges to work with right here. I'm going to put Agent 3s to our core because that's going to use 7 badge points. And then we can go ahead and put Deadeye on silver and Limitless Range on silver, or Blinders if you wanted to instead of Deadeye. I like Deadeye a little bit better than Blinders, but it's really personal preference. But you still have really, really good shooting badges, and you're gonna be able to shoot really, really good with this build. Another badge I forgot to mention as well is Amped. You can also run Amped instead of like Catch and Shoot. I would definitely do that, actually. Definitely run Amped. It's like Tireless Shooter. It's very, very good. And moving into playmaking badges now. Now, playmaking is a very interesting category here. Obviously, we're gonna run Hall of Fame Quick First Step and the highest level of Unpluckable there. Now we have 11 badge points equipped. We're also going to run Bronze Bailout. We can mess around with this a little bit and figure out exactly what we want. Handles for Days Gold. We're going to go ahead and core Handles for Days Gold. We're definitely going to want to run Gold and Mismatch Expert and Clamp Breaker. Now you have one of the two options. Now in order to get these, you're going to have to move this down And to get Clan Breaker silver. And if you want Clan Breaker gold, you're gonna have to put this on bronze in order to get Clan Breaker gold. Clan Breaker is a really solid badge. And if you wanted to, this is what your badge setup would look like with this build on playmaking. You can adjust it a little bit. It doesn't have to be exactly this, but this is probably what I would run with this build. And like I mentioned as well, you can also use that +4 in order to get unpluckable up a little bit. Maybe like 2 of the 4 on playmaking and 2 of the 4 on defense. You can get unpluckable up. And moving on to the last and final category, which is defense. We're going to be running Menace, at least gold, I would say, maybe silver. We'll go ahead and start on silver for now and come back to it. We're going to be wanting Pick Dodger, probably silver. Me personally, I probably want some chasing on this build and maybe even some Rebound Chaser bronze, which will give us tier 3 badge access. Now with this, we can probably only put on 2 out of the 3 badges unless we use our +4. If we use our +4, we can put on 3 out of the 4 instead of 2 out of the 4. But in my opinion, clamps is one of the most important ones right here. But I also think we need to core challenger right here. We need a core challenger. Core challenger instead of clamps, because challenger you can get gold, and which means it costs extra badges, as opposed to clamps only cost 6. And so with this, if you had 3 extra badge points, you can go ahead and put on interceptor silver, or if you had 2 extra, you could put on bronze interceptor. Or what you could do is go up Pick Dodger and you could go up Menace all the way there, and then you could have something like that. But you're running no interceptor, which I think is bad. I would use some of your +4 on defense in order to get that interceptor, but this is probably what the badge layout I would use would look like. But listen, that's probably gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope that you make this build. If you make this build, at me on Twitter. I'll like, retweet it. This build is extremely all around and a super good guard build if you're looking for that. But that's gonna be about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out, man. Peace.